Before we dive into our episode 8 recap, great feedback on the episode 5 recap on YouTube. You know, we're recording episode 8 recap just as episode 5 was published wherever you get podcasts, mostly on YouTube, like the day after, or actually, I think the day of episode 5 being published, which is always on a Tuesday. At Toy Aliens on YouTube, one of our common fans here, he made a comment in regards to our ongoing thing about Judy going up the stairs in her final moment ever on Family Matters. Toy Aliens on YouTube, Andrew, actually claims that Judy going up the stairs and never coming back as the final moment is a myth. Technically, she is at Mother Winslow's wedding and comes in the house from the backyard in her final scene. I don't know if you recall that at all.
I don't recall it. Wow, is that season 9 where that happens?
Wait, Mother Winslow doesn't get married that late because Mother Winslow leaves the show like earlier than that. I think Judy would have left in season 4. So I think the wedding would have been in season 4.
Oh my gosh, now I gotta go back and watch this. Why was she in the backyard? She last went upstairs. Why was she in the backyard? Did they try to bury her alive and it didn't work? And now I have questions. If you are right about this, Toy Aliens, I have questions now. Where does she come from? Is it the real Judy? Is it Shadow Judy? Or is it one of the lookalikes that they hired from other states when they were casting things?
You know what? You bring up some great choices. It could have been either one of those. I also thought, wait a minute, Mother Winslow gets married? Because I think I kind of recall her getting married, but Mother Winslow is so brief and fleeting compared to the big presence that is Steve Urkel in this series that it was just like, whoa, okay. But yeah, I kind of vaguely remember her getting married. Judy being in the backyard, supposedly either digging herself into her grave or somebody else digging herself into her grave. I don't remember any of that. So I can't wait until we get to that part to confirm what the fuck Toy Aliens is talking about.
Yes, once we get to that part, because now I just have another question here. Shadow Judy myth or whatever it is that I'm creating with us. So Shadow Judy is gone. Then we had Judy who went up the stairs and never came back. But then Toy Aliens is saying she came in from the backyard the day Mother Winslow gets married off by Carl because he wants her out of the house. So now she's going to take Mother Winslow back through the back door.
Into the light? Is she going to take Mother Winslow into the light?
Hopefully the light with her husband, because I want her to at least get that inheritance if he passes before her. But they're going to the light.
Mother Winslow and the husband going into the light. Hopefully the light of still living and not the light of being dead. Oh, God. And at Toy Aliens also claiming that, you remember, I think was it Straight A's, the episode, literally episode 5. Yeah. So he was claiming, he was responding to the fact that we were thinking Eddie has a bedroom all of a sudden. Whereas in the pilot episode, he was sleeping in the attic. And Toy Aliens on YouTube claims that Eddie is still in the attic. I guess his room is just so decorated that we don't even recognize it as the attic anymore. Apparently, there are some episodes where you can notice Eddie, right outside his room door, there are stairs that are climbed that indicates that he truly is still living in the attic. So I don't know. We have listeners that have a closer eye than us, or maybe we're seeing something different.
You know what? Maybe we're seeing something different because I actually have a question about the layout from this episode we're going to talk about today. Maybe they're in the Twilight Zone house, or if you're a gamer, if you're familiar with Control, how the building reorients itself in this alien ship. Maybe that's what's happening because the layout of this house is crazy.
I definitely have something to say about the layout. Makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, one of our favorite listeners, at Judy Winslow Matters on Instagram. I think I had sort of collaborated with you on this on Instagram as well, Andrew. At AJ Vanderton is where you could find Andrew on Instagram. At Judy Winslow Matters, she sent us a behind-the-scenes photo of the Winslow family bike riding scene that we see in the opening credits. And she says that technically Shadow Judy does appear in the bike scene. And, if you remember, there's a close-up of the family bike riding, and then it zooms out as we see more credits. And my initial guess was, well, the zoom out has to be where we see the Shadow Judy, because if you look at the close-up, I don't see any fucking Shadow Judy there. And then I watched the actual bike scene in the opening credits. We'll get to that. I noticed something. Now, did you? I don't know if you already know the intricacies of this opening credit thing, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Let's introduce ourselves first. Delicious Recap Family Matters, our recap of the 90s sitcom Family Matters. I am John Francois, and Andrew, if you want to edit this out, we can. You sound very under the weather. Are you okay?
I am under the weather. I am sick. I don't know what I have. I know it's not COVID, and I know it's not RSV. Judy, but I work with children. So whenever kids get sick with something, I'm going to get sick.
Okay, well, we hope you feel better. And as you are on the path of hopefully feeling better, who are you this week?
Today, I am baby Richie because I'm colicky. I've been crying all weekend. No, all week. I'm sick.
So crying because you're sick or crying because of other stuff?
I just turn into a big baby when I'm sick. So I'm going to be baby Richie because I am just the biggest baby when I am sick.
You know what you are? You are just the average man. I mean, usually we men, when we are sick, we think that we are dying of everything. It's fine. You are a man amongst men, Andrew.
I am. I sneezed and my forearms hurt. And I was like, what in the world? Everything hurts. It just hurts. It's not fun. But thank you to the makers of Tylenol and Dayquil because you're amazing.
Oh, God, yeah. And the rare times that I've been sick, Dayquil and NyQuil especially. I mean, what I love about Dayquil is that it will keep you awake, but you are such in a hazy state of mind that it's almost like you're high, a little bit drunk, could go to sleep, but you don't need to go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, it's, and of course, NyQuil can knock me out, but Dayquil, I just love how high Dayquil makes me feel.
It makes you feel like, I literally feel like I could run a marathon right now, but I wouldn't remember running the marathon. It probably doesn't help that yesterday I ate a gummy, and that gummy, I kind of feel like I'm still feeling it today, but I feel good. And I'm like, okay, I can make it through this. I sound terrible, but I feel really good.
Okay, well, at any point, if we need to cut things short, like, let me know, because I don't want to, make a sick man even sicker by working his lovely vocal cords.
Oh, you're giving me something to challenge Jaden with tonight to be like, hey, I worked and I was sick. Can you make dinner?
Yep. Even better reason to cater to our whims as sick men. We are recapping season 1, episode 8, Mr. Badwrench, original air date November 17th, 1989, written by Alan Eisenstock and Larry Mintz. Automatically, I'm recalled to our Rich Correll interview where he mentioned their names as being primary factors in the making of Family Matters. Directed by John Boab, guest star. Our upcoming guest, Susan Merson as Sylvia the contractor. Susan is coming on the show. Literally, in a few hours after we're done with this recap today, we're recording Susan. How about that?
I'm super excited. I can't wait to talk to her. Her character has some pretty good looks and lines in this episode.
Yeah, and I have a comment about her character's accent in just a bit. So let's stay tuned for that. Sort of unfortunately, Jaleel White as Steve Urkel in another rerun syndication cold open. It's been a while since I've watched this episode. Do you remember how you felt about this cold open?
This cold open was just as clunky as the others. It wasn't as bad. Now, I actually was thinking about something while I was watching this the other day. With this being our fourth cold open with Steve Urkel at this point?
I feel like it's number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so this is our third cold open with him. Even though we have not officially been introduced to Steve now, if I would have never seen Family Matters, I'd be like, oh, okay, this kid's back. I understand that he's introduced into this family at some point, but they did us a favor and they brought back a sweater that Laura wore in a previous episode to kind of tie him in and say, oh, okay, well, this sweater is familiar to what we saw in a previous episode. So he's been here for a while.
So when you say the sweater, like a sweater in one of the previous cold opens that we saw?
One of the previous episodes. It wasn't worn in a cold opening, but that sweater that Laura has on, that color blocked blue, yellow, and I think the other arm is red. And it's got like the little figure in the center, like a little skinny guy. She wore that, and I want to say episode 3. I've got to go back and read my notes, but I think it was episode 3. She wore that sweater in a scene where they were in the kitchen.
And you're talking about the sweater that we're about to see in this cold open right now?
Yes.
I did not know that. Okay. And I have some comments about that sweater because I don't think I've ever seen it before. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't even have a comment about it. So it's seen by 20.6 million viewers. Again, great numbers by today's standards. Back then, probably considered tepid by those television standards. Our Hulu synopsis, while Carl unsuccessfully tries to install a shower, Rachel tries to convince everybody that her baby boy really can talk. Overall thoughts before we dive in, Andrew?
I like this episode a lot. I laughed quite a few times. I just thought it's fun. I love construction episodes in a sitcom where they're like doing some kind of work in the house. It just always turns out good to me, and I was laughing. I have to say, for myself, the most exciting part of it is Harriet's fashion in this episode. Her fashion is elevated to a whole another level. I love it.
As if it was possible to do so. I mean, Harriet, she just keeps upping herself. I love that. few thoughts I had about this episode. One, if someone is living in your house and they do not like the way your house is currently constructed, you can kindly ask them to suck it up and leave. I'm talking about you, Carl. So that's one. Two, the physical setup of Mama Winslow's bathroom in this house as characters are entering and exiting. Like, were you just having a big question mark in your head? Like, how does this all work? Because it just doesn't.
It doesn't work. It's very, very confusing because the whole time I assumed the bathroom was upstairs and it's not upstairs. Like, I'm like, what? What did we just see?
Yeah, Mama Winslow's room is upstairs, and then the bathroom, which is showed to be connected to the room, is downstairs. It's like, what kind of vortex Winslow household are we living in?
Yes, it is officially the Twilight Zone. They are in a Rubik's Cube, and the bathroom moves all over the house.
Oh, and speaking of which, I think someone wears a Rubik's Cube sweater at some point. Is it Harriet? Is it Laura? I think someone does.
I think somebody does. I want to say it's Laura.
Probably. We'll have to get to that when we get to that. I love Susan. I cannot wait to talk to her. And I have to ask her about this. Either she is like a New Yorker and has some kind of accent, or maybe she put on an accent for the character. You tell me your thoughts about this. Some kind of accent stood out to me with this contractor that I thought was just strange. It just seemed like, is this relevant to the contractor? Maybe this is just how Susan really talks. I don't know.
I was confused because I was like, I feel like I'm hearing a Jersey accent, but maybe a New York accent at the same time. And I couldn't tell where this contractor was supposed to be from because I'm like, wait, they're in Chicago. But she's talking like she's from Jersey, but I would think she's from New York. So I don't know what's happened here. The accent kind of just awkwardly works because you think of like Bubba the plumber, he would have an accent, and maybe she's like Bubba's wife. And this is her accent, and they just met through plumbing.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Because when we think construction of anything in the house, we often think like, oh, yeah, hey, Vinny, you want to fix my pipe? Like the New Yorkers on the street. So I get that. And I'm sure there's a lot of New Yorkers / Jerseyans that have moved to Chicago for whatever reason. And honestly, Chicago has its own sort of New York attitude. I can't really imitate a Chicago accent very well, but you can hear it. Like if you watch, I don't know, I think like certain John Candy comedy movies, certain like John Hughes movies, like, the Breakfast Club, Uncle Buck, Pretty in Pink, like John Hughes movies of the 80s, those 80s teens movies and those comedies with like Steve Martin, John Candy. Like there's a lot of Chicago-ness in it. I think Home Alone, which John Hughes directed, is set in Chicago. So yeah, there's like the Bears. Like there's that kind of attitude with Chicago that I think maybe Sylvia has. We'll ask Susan when we get to her. Maybe she'll confirm it for us.
Yeah. What was your accent? What were you channeling?
And also, last point about this episode, mothers of babies. I want to know if you're a mother listening who is taking care of a baby, is it a good idea to force your kid to say their first word over and over? Because Rachel was leaning really heavy on that one. Is that why you were a baby Richie? Is it because you kind of felt bad for him?
I'm very bad for baby Richie. This baby is just trying to exist. And she keeps saying mama to this baby. And that baby was like, what are you doing?
So how about we get to our cold open? We start in the kitchen. Laura enters the kitchen to tell her mom goodbye and that she'll see her after school. And, there you go. The sweater is like the first thing I'm noticing, Andrew. The red, green, black, and yellow Cosby-like sweater that Laura is wearing. And it also gives me Cool Runnings Jamaican bobsledding team vibes. Remember that movie from the 90s? Again, speaking of a movie with John Candy about that Jamaican bobsledding team. You've seen it, right?
I've seen it a few times. I remember that movie.
Yeah, I remember my very white ex in Iowa showed me it, and she loved it from her childhood, and I've never seen it before. So I wish I had seen it when I was a kid, because when you're seeing it as an adult in his mid-20s, it's like, damn it. Like, this would have been so much better as a kid. But like the comedy, the whole vibe, everything would have been so much better to watch younger.
Yes, I tried to rewatch it as an adult, and I didn't make it through the movie. I was like, why did I like this movie as a kid? As a kid, gold. That movie was golden. As an adult, I will never watch it again.
Harriet wishes Laura a good day, and in comes Steve through the back porch door once again with a lack of proper introduction that we'll eventually get in episode 12. Before you know it, we'll get to it, Andrew. We're getting there. And he's carrying that old lawyer man briefcase that I don't think we see so much of as the series goes on.
I want to say this is the first time we've seen it in a cold opening. And then I'm trying to remember in the other episodes, other than where we're officially introduced to Steve, I don't remember him having a briefcase too often.
To me, it just seems like a very rare commodity. So we'll observe as we go on with the show. Steve says hi to Laura and Harriet with his charming nerd kid smile, and Laura bummingly tells her mom that there goes any chance of having a good day. Harriet asks Laura if she can take the trash on her way out. Steve quickly butts in and insists that hands as delicate as Laura's should never have to touch garbage. And I'm like, oh, Steve Urkel, you're old school chivalry kind of thinking about girls. But look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite, Andrew, because even, being with my wife, Tony, for almost 4 years, there are still some times where I'm like, oh, you fart. Like, and I really am getting better at it. But there are some times where she farts where I'm still kind of like, oh, darn it. Boys are supposed to be disgusting with this stuff, not you.
Oh my gosh. I have always wondered how heterosexual couples handle this. When it comes to farting, was it like a surprise the first time she farted? Or is it kind of just like, you're like, I wish I could stop you from farting altogether?
It's something to get used to when you are a guy like me who tends to think of women as like, oh, yeah, this beautiful, lovely specimen. And Tony is like the most intimate relationship that I've had, the longest lasting relationship I've had. I don't really think I've had a relationship to the point of prior to Tony where farting is a thing. So when it became a thing, it was like, oh, okay. First, it was me being comfortable enough eventually to fart in front of her. And then once she became comfortable enough to fart in front of me, it was like, all right, okay. And I just, as time has gone by, I've gotten better at it. I will say that I've gotten better at it. But there are some times where even like, say, during sex, like I'll stick up the room like a bad bomb. And then she'll do it right after. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm acting like as if I didn't like just stick up the room like a World War II bomb like a second ago. So it's something that I'm continually trying to work on.
Okay. Tony, I'm sorry to have you catch a stray. I've just always wondered, because with guys, it's like, okay, we're just going to fire. We know that this is the thing that's going to happen. Okay, so that's the benefit of being gay, I see.
Yeah, so it's a process. It's a process. And Tony, I'm sorry. I mean, I know that in past episodes during our Anything Show era, I've revealed a lot of TMI sex things. And now we've gone on to the farting stage. Because, this is a family-friendly sitcom rewatch that we're doing. So I think it's more family-friendly to talk about farts than, what position that we like in bed. So,
and Everybody Farts. It's a great book. You got to read it.
I will. I certainly will. As Steve carries the 2 large bags of trash towards the back porch door, he trips over his briefcase, and I'm feeling like a "did I do that" coming. Did you have that same anticipatory thing?
I was waiting for it. I was like, oh my God, I'm waiting for him to say, did I do that? And I didn't get it.
As Steve gets up from the floor, the trash bags rip and what looks like a bunch of crumpled up newspapers spread all over the floor. And I'm thinking in this moment, wow, the Winslows are very well read with current events.
Okay, we had the same thought, because in my notes, I said 20 pounds of newspaper fell out of that garbage bag. And I just want to know, why do y'all have so much newspaper? But then I thought about it. Maybe they buy a lot of fish, because fish gets wrapped in newspaper a lot at the fish market. But then I've never seen Harriet cook fish.
This is true. Now, when you said the fish for a moment, I thought you meant like the goldfish, like the goldfish that Rudy eventually flushed down the toilet in that episode of The Cosby Show. That's what I thought you were thinking of. But yeah, no, I mean, Harriet has never cooked fish. She's too busy making bland white people sandwiches. So maybe we should elevate her to that level. And honestly, you know what? The fish thing might be a better excuse than the current events thing. I mean, I know that Eddie doesn't fucking read a newspaper. He doesn't even know what a picture book is without dummy is. So
Eddie doesn't know it. Laura, I don't think has ever picked up a newspaper. And the only other person I can think would be Rachel. Maybe she's basing her stories off of current events in the news. But I still didn't get it. There was so much newspaper.
I mean, the most logical reasoning would be for Carl to have a lot of newspapers. Because think about it. I mean, as a police officer, I would imagine that he would want to be kept up with all the crime that's happening in his community. Chicago being a very big city, they obviously have the Chicago Tribune or whatever that fucking newspaper is that Harriet works at, the Chronicle. So it's probably for Carl to just be, kept up on the latest robbery that's happening right around the corner.
I can see it. I mean, they had to report Die Hard, all the events that happened in there in the newspaper. So Carl was ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, we have Steve looking at Laura and Harriet nervously and saying, "Oh, actually, no, there is a 'Did I do that?' coming." He takes a moment after all the newspapers drop on the floor, and then he says, "Did I do that?" And then there's upbeat music to close out the scene. Now, do you remember it?
I completely tuned that out mentally. Oh my God. Okay, I do remember her doing it, and then the theme song starts.
Yeah, pretty much. We get to our opening credits. Yes, of course, we see the Shadow Judy dinner scene. That's already established. But now, Andrew, I'm paying attention to this biking scene. All right. So I'm referencing back to Judy Winslow Matters comment on Instagram. So I don't see her or a lookalike anywhere in the close-up. Like, we see just the other members of the family. We see Rachel, Laura, Eddie, Carl, Harriet. But like, if you look at the zoom out scene as the credits are rolling, I do see like a shadow of a tiny kid on a bike that looks nothing like Shadow Judy. It looks like they put like a 1-year-old in there and thought that that would pass. And if you remember the original Judy Winslow actress, I mean, she looked like she could have been like maybe 5, 6.
Every time I watch the opening, I look at that and it's a different girl. The head shape is different. Her hair is completely different. Like, it just looks like this random child was just on the bridge and the family's passing the child on the bridge.
And I have this mixed response. Well, first of all, so, Judy Winslow Matters says that it's a lookalike, but it's not even a lookalike. It bears no resemblance. So I'm just going to say non-resemblance. And as regard to that zoom out scene, like that edit, I had this mixed response where like it didn't have to be there for this specific reason of us noticing it. But at the same time, I don't blame whoever decided to keep that edit in, because the zoom out scene, I realized, like, happened so fucking quickly that you wouldn't even notice anyway if you were a casual viewer.
Very true. If I was not paying attention, I would not notice it. If I wasn't like watching this with an eye to see everything, I'd be like, oh, okay, it's just a family on the bridge. Da, da, da. And I would just imagine that little girl was like Laura's shadow against the railing or something. I wouldn't have even paid attention to it. But now that I'm like watching this to look at it specifically, I notice it.
Anyway, we go to scene 1 in the kitchen. Harriet making sandwiches at the countertop. Those damn sandwiches again. She's in her robe, and Eddie enters from the stairs, also in his robe, as Harriet greets him. Again, I mean, it's Christmas morning every morning with the Winslows with those robes.
This is a roby episode. There are a lot of robes, and none of the robes are the same robes from the last episode when the whole family was in robe.
So they have a nice collection of robes, as if they make a lot more money than they actually do.
Oh, yes. Their robe budget. I can imagine Harriet like on the Monday of the first of the month, like, everybody get your new robes, choose the robes you want me to buy.
Yeah, to reference back to when Harriet got laid off, and I'm guessing the Winslow family would like to figure out how to budget to accommodate that. Step 1, stop wearing so many damn robes.
Yes, you would save yourself so much money.
And I had a side note here, Andrew. Oh, yeah, this is where I start to notice, like, Darius McCurry as Eddie, he just seems to be getting taller every episode. Am I going crazy?
No, you're not. I've noticed he looks taller every single episode. Like, it's like they filmed the season in the middle of a growth spurt for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you see him in earlier stuff, I think pre-Family Matters, I think I saw clips of him in like a John Ritter TV movie that Darius McCurry himself posted on his Instagram. I mean, Eddie grows quickly. And speaking of which, Eddie saying good morning to his mom as he goes to the kitchen table where we see Laura and Judy sitting, also wearing robes. Harriet asks the kids what they want for breakfast, so I'm guessing she's making those sandwiches for their school lunch. Eddie says he wants pancakes. Laura wants French toast. Judy is already thinking like a hungover college student and says pizza. Hey, cold pizza or hot? Which one do you like?
Hot pizza. I am not a cold pizza fan.
Thank God, because cold pizza is a big thing amongst, I know, the college student crowd. Definitely there's a lot of adults who are fucking lazy and just want to take a cold pizza out of the fridge. I know my wife, Tony, is all about the cold pizza. Me and you were the same thing. Put it in the microwave, put it in a toaster oven. If it's there, if it's not, and I'm on a desert island, then okay, I'll put up with it. But if I have the choice of heating, I'm going to go with a heated pizza.
If I'm on a desert island, I'm sitting my pizza in the sun just to warm it up.
That's a brilliant idea. I totally forgot about that because it's a fucking desert. Of course there's going to be sun.
Right.
This is why you're here, Andrew. You have the half of my brain that I don't have.
John, we work together. That's why we always have hot pizza.
Harriet says they're having eggs with 2 choices, scrambled or raw. And Harriet, at this moment, she was reminding me of my mom, because my sister gave my mom a Christmas gift that pretty much defines who my mom is, like as, tired and stressed as she could often be taking care of kids in the house. She got a sign for my mom that hangs up on our kitchen wall back home in Connecticut that says something like, today's meal, eat it or starve.
I like that a lot.
And I get it. I mean, some mothers are just like, you know what? Stop asking, stop complaining, stop remarking, stop critiquing. Be grateful for the fact that I made you something and eat it.
Mm-hmm. You have food. It's in front of you. Eat it.
Laura, Judy, and Eddie all say scrambled at the same time, and in comes Carl strutting happily into the kitchen through that swinging door like the day will be on his side. And he says good morning to his family. And, the kids are all saying good morning back to him. I think we had said on the last episode recap that the synchronization of this Winslow family is just unnatural.
It is. It felt like Carl trained them well. Like he was like, you will all say good morning at once, like they do in the police academy.
Who is my good kid puppies? Say good morning all at the same time. Let's do it every morning now. And I was also reminded of like those like perfect 1950s family documentaries. Like you always see the black and white, like, oh, the father coming home and the wife who's a housewife, she's making him his eggs and blah, blah, blah. And the kids are all happy with their, shirts all tucked in and the dresses because this is how they casually dress in the house, Harriet style. But of course, it's a black version because you never saw black people in those 1950s happy family documentaries.
Never. They didn't exist. And it was just like, everything's perfect. The world is great. And then the father steps out the door and who knows what he goes to do this entire day.
Have sex with a bunch of mistresses. That's what he usually does in the office after hours. Hey, honey, I'm staying home late from work. That's code for making more babies without your permission.
There you go. He's like, I'm going to just go ahead and smoke a cigarette in the office.
Harriet asked Carl if he wants some eggs. Carl says no because he got up early, showered, and had a big breakfast. Already in my head, I was getting to a fat joke. I was like, what? Carl turning down food?
Yeah, I just want to know what breakfast did he have? Because he doesn't cook anything ever in this series. So where did he eat at?
He ate Sheila at the office, if you know what I mean.
Oh, poor Sheila.
Right, exactly. The last person you want eating you is Carl Winslow. Trust me, he has quite a saliva appetite. A salivacious appetite he has. Of course, Carl makes that statement, and then he sees a plate filled with powdered, possibly jelly donuts on the countertop and delightfully goes for one. And I was marveled at the fact that there was just a stack of donuts on a plate there because I'm like, I don't think I've seen any family breakfast situation where it's like, oh, hey, here's your pyramid of donuts.
I just need to know where this family lives. They were the original DoorDash and Uber family because who has fresh donuts on their table every day?
Harriet Winslow does. Fresh donuts and bland white people sandwiches. Come to me for that.
Oh, Harriet's Deli. I like this.
Harriet tells Carl at least he showered because no one can get in there. Carl asks if his mother is still in the shower because she could miss her train to Milwaukee. And right away I was thinking like, oh, Mama Winslow maybe having a date with someone from the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, I can see Mama Winslow out on the ice. They play hockey, right?
Oh, I was going to ask you if you knew. I think they're the baseball team. I think.
Okay. So, what do the baseball people do? They do the umpire thing. I could see Mama Winslow as an umpire out there with the date.
Yeah, right. Way to go, girl! Strike! And, we already talked about her famous friends, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of Mama Winslow's famous friends was a Milwaukee Brewer named Gary.
Maybe she's going to be the person to plan the team's night out on the town. We always hear how she's a party animal. So she's going to Wisconsin for the week so she can party it up with this team and show them a real good time.
Absolutely. Milwaukee Brewers Party hosted by Mama Winslow and one of the players. The Mama Winslow and Gary the Snake Party. Fear Gary's slithering fury as he gives you a good time.
This sounds like a very sticky party.
Oh, yeah. And we're not talking about the alcohol, Andrew. Laura says Mama Winslow is almost finished because when she walked by, Mama was singing Stormy Weather's last verse. And I was looking up who the fuck Stormy Weather was on Google. Or actually, no, Stormy Weather is not an artist. It's the name of the song. So Google gives me various versions of the song Stormy Weather from like Etta James, Frank Sinatra, Billie Holiday. I don't know if are you familiar with the Stormy Weather song at all in any iteration?
I'm not familiar with the song. I actually wanted to listen to it. And when I looked it up on Spotify, the NyQuil took me at that point. I fell asleep, so I didn't hear it, but I want to hear the song.
Eddie says he's next in the shower. Judy insists she's next with powerful sass on the I'm, because Jamie in that moment probably thinking, you know what, they're not giving me much to do on the show, so I got to seize every word I can. I mean, my feet from that last episode.
Oh, yes. Again, I need that on a shirt. But this is one of those rare scenes. Everybody, the entire cast is going to be on the scene, which I enjoy. And I'm happy that Judy got her moment to say a line.
There you go. Everybody's getting a chance to eat. I love the pre-Urkel family matters. Laura tells Judy she's little and can wash in the sink. So I'm guessing they have a very large sink, because I would think like, oh, maybe baby Richie could fit in the sink. Judy Winslow, no, she seems a little bit big for a sink.
She's a little big. And I remember getting washed in the sink one time, and it was a fun experience. But as a bigger kid, I would not want to do that.
Yeah, maybe you could wash your toe in the sink at this point, but your entire body, that's a reach.
It is. And just think about that. You're bathing in the sink, and I'm assuming it's the kitchen sink, not the bathroom sink. I would be disgusted.
Speaking of which, Rachel enters the kitchen from the stairs with her Winslow family. So I think now I'm going to call it the Winslow family cult robes. They're in a cult where they just wear robes every chance they can in the house.
Oh, I like that a lot. The cult that wears robes.
And Rachel holds baby Richie as she gives everyone a good morning. Rachel has fabulous news. Little Richie just spoke his first word. Harriet excitedly asks, what did he say? Rachel says, Mama, and happily hugs Richie. Harriet says, aw. Carl asks Rachel if she's sure Richie says that because he's only 9 months old, which I thought valid question, Andrew, because Google tells me that babies usually don't say their first word until the age of 1. Do you did your family tell you when your first word was?
My parents have always told me it was when I was around like 10 or 11 months, like getting around that 1 year age where I said my first word. I don't even know what it was, but they just said I was having a full conversation with them, and then a word came out and boop, here we go.
Right. I love it. I love it. For a second there, I almost thought you were going to say 10 or 11 years old. I was like, whoa, Andrew, you are a little slow there.
I was just saving up all of the words to let them out at 10 years old.
Nice, suspenseful buildup. 10 years worth. I like that, Andrew. Rachel insists she was there when Richie looked her right in the face and said, Mama. Carl asks, why is every kid's first word always Mama? And I'm like, Carl, come on now. You're not that dumb. Because like the kid is coming from inside the mama. And the mama usually takes a primary role in nurturing them in their little first years. Of course they're going to say mama.
I mean, I see it. I understand that it's the show and it's the joke. But then the psychology side of me hopped in there. Most kids say dada as their first word, if you consider that a word, because mama, like, think about it. You're a child. It's a lot to fix your lips to pronounce an M. And as a baby, you don't have those motor functions yet for the M, but da, you just open your mouth and it's dada. It's easy. So statistically, most children say dad or dada first before they say mama.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I thought for a moment it was because like, oh, you know, dada sperm is pretty much what produces the baby inside mama's egg. I made up dada.
Oh, I can see what you think. I see what you're going for. Biologically, I see it.
Yeah, but your logic makes a lot more sense. Laura says not Eddie because his first word was, huh? Oh, God. Laura, that middle child, firing shots at both Eddie and Judy this early in the morning. It's too early for that middle child snark.
Laura is always ready. She comes with the ammunition loaded. She's like, I'm going to take both of you out in one hit today.
Harriet encourages Richie to say, Mama. Richie has the typical clueless baby look and doesn't respond. Rachel then tries encouraging him herself. And then we hear what sounds like the fakest pre-recorded Elmo-ish mama ever. I almost thought that Richie said mama. I was like, oh, God. The sound effects team didn't really go that crappy, did they?
That's what I was thinking at first. I was like, did they put a mic on this kid? Because how does that sound like that?
But of course, Rachel is excitingly buying into it and asks Richie to do it again. And then the camera cuts to Carl mumbling in a baby voice through his coffee mug. Oh, I'm not in the mood. Yeah, I think he was also saying it in a fake baby Richie voice. I'm not in the mood. Thankfully, this show did not have us believe that Richie has like the most terrible fakest baby voice. voice, so that was nice. Harriet is amused by Carl's baby voice. Rachel, not so much. And then she tells Carl to cut it out and insists that Richie can really say mama. And in enters a dressed up Mama Winslow into the kitchen singing what I assume is Stormy Weather. And boy, Andrew, did you notice that she was singing it very loudly?
Yes, she did not care if anybody was awake. She said, I am here and I'm going to make sure that y'all notice me.
God, man, it was like classic grandma just belting her chords out in church as if like all the other voices are drowning her out, including the pastor's voice. It's like, no, you're not in church. You're in a house where nobody else is speaking or singing.
That was her moment. She's like, I have arrived and all of you will know that I am coming.
Mama Winslow gives a good morning to everyone and they react amusingly to her singing. But maybe you're the same way, Andrew, or maybe you're different. If someone was singing that loudly in the morning, I would not be too happy.
No, don't talk to me before 9 a.m. or if I've had my coffee. I would be so angry, like screaming at her, like, shut up, girl.
Yeah. I mean, think of people not wanting to hear singing in the morning as like basically drunk people not wanting to hear any noise whatsoever. Like that's pretty much the same quality. We just have no patience for that early in the morning, Mama Winslow. All right, so Eddie excitingly exclaims that the shower is free, and he, Laura, and Judy make a run for it at the same time. And I was reminded here that I'm so glad I'm not living at home anymore in Connecticut with my mom and my siblings, because this is exactly the kind of shit you would have to deal with when you live with a bunch of other people who would need to take up the shower, and they all take a long time, including me. It's like, nope. Oh, God, just me and my wife in our own house. It's great.
That is amazing. I think about myself that as a kid, it was me, my brother, mom, and dad. I would hate waiting for the shower. It was the most annoying thing in the world to me in the morning. There would be some mornings I would go to school. I'd be like, I'm not showering today. I would shower the night before and did not care how I smelled when I woke up because I'm like, I'm just going.
Yeah, because usually at night, it's more tepid in terms of like the wait time. But in the morning, all of a sudden, everybody like, nope, got to get in the shower. It's almost like you have to have a board outside the bathroom door and write your name down with what time you're going to be in the shower and for how long. It's ridiculous.
It is. I got lucky. At least for us, we had a separate bathroom that didn't have a shower, but you could at least brush your teeth so you could get half of the work done before you got to get in the shower.
Carl tells the kids to hold up and say goodbye to their grandmother first. The kids say goodbye all at the same time. Synchronization madness here. And they continue to make a run for the bathroom up the stairs. Rachel gleefully tells Mother Winslow that little Richie spoke his first word. Mother Winslow finds that sweet and asks what Richie said. And I'm so waiting for Mama to just come back with a non-impressed, snappy comment here.
I was waiting for it too. I was expecting her to be like, oh, he didn't speak a word. Or way to go, Rachel.
Rachel says, Mama, in that annoying, creepy animatronic doll tone again and again. It seems like she does that a lot this episode.
It sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It is the most irritating moment of the entire episode for me when she says Mama.
But didn't you say in a previous recap that you like the sound of nails on a chalkboard?
I do, but I don't like this chalkboard or these nails. This one's bad. And it's like, oh my God, just stop, girl.
Okay, so it's a very selective kind of nails on a chalkboard that floats your belly.
Yes, I am a chalkboard and nail connoisseur. I only like steel from Provence.
I have to look that up. That is a very, very exquisite nail chalkboard thing you just referenced there. Mama Winslow actually finds Richie's first word to be cute. And then a fact joke I actually did not expect comes right now when she says Carl's first word was donut. Dada and donut. I mean, I would say donut is a very difficult word to say.
It was super difficult to say, but I mean, if you like donuts, but Mother Winslow, you didn't have to tell us that. He always throws shots at Carl all the time.
Way to go, Carl, you fat ass son of mine. And fittingly enough, I mean, we saw Carl enjoy a donut a moment ago. And I'm also thinking that, okay, if Carl's first word, if they were not joking, if Carl's first word was really donut, maybe Mama Winslow fed him a donut when he first came out. Maybe she has some responsibility in his first word.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe Mama Winslow is the one who led him down this unhealthy eating path.
Yeah.
But now shames him for it because she regrets it.
There you go. Some inner family matters psychology that you won't get anywhere else but this podcast.
We're breaking it down.
Donut, Google Gaga, Mama traumatizing me. We see Carl react to his mother's dig by taking the donut he was about to eat out of his mouth. He tells Mama Winslow that she has a train to catch. Rachel asks Mama Winslow how long she'll be staying at Frank and Maxine's. And at the moment, I have no idea who these people are, but did you already catch who at least one of them were at this very moment?
Yes, Frank is a brother because they say Frank's name in episode 1. So that I knew. I was like, oh, it's Frank. Okay.
Yeah. Later on, I remember it's Frank, but at the moment, I was like, well, again, I mean, Family Matters, they reference these characters as just these passing figures that we never physically see, that it's easy to just forget them if they're only mentioned once. Mama Winslow says she's staying 10 days and is looking forward to it because she'll have her own bathroom and shower. I mean, with how she was using that shower this morning, she might as well just own that Winslow bathroom and shower because she was there a long time singing that damn Stormy Weather song.
She had a great time. I enjoy a good shower, so Mama Winslow, I get it. Take your time in there, girl.
Yeah, and you know what? As she would often say, I'm old. I got no time left. Might as well enjoy it.
Right. People who are older should be able to just enjoy anything for as long as they want to do it. And we have no comment on it. They just get to have fun and let them do it.
Let that hot water soak on your brittle bones, woman. We love it. Carl reminds Mama Winslow that Frank is a cheapskate who makes her rent towels. Mama Winslow says Carl's brother has 3 bathrooms and they all have showers, with one bathroom having a hot tub. And that's where I realized, like, oh, yeah, Frank, one of Carl's 2,000 brothers that we never see. And I feel like Frank's frugalness could have made an interesting reoccurring character that we could have actually seen.
It really could have. I mean, I want to know what this man's house looks like. He's got 3 bathrooms, all with showers in this one house. Why isn't Mama Winslow staying with you? I would love to see like a character who comes in as this cheapskate. And that's why we find out that him and Mama Winslow don't get together often. This could have been a great spinoff.
Yeah. Oh, God. Either a great spinoff or just like a very nice, complex storyline that could have stretched out on any given season in the show. It would have been great. And I'm still asking, maybe I asked this in our first episode recap, what the hell does Frank do for a living to get all his damn money where he's got 3 bathrooms and 3 showers in each bathroom? Like, what the hell's going on? I mean, I think he's the guy who has the apartment in New York that Carl mentioned, right? In the pilot?
Yeah, he has an apartment in New York, but then he's got this place in Milwaukee. So what in the world? What do you do?
I don't know. Was he like an assistant for Donald Trump? I have no idea.
Oh, that could be true. You never know. Maybe Frank is a gangster and Carl became a police officer to offset all the bad things that Frank has been doing.
Yo, old Frankie Knuckles Winslow over here. Carl wants to end this conversation, clearly implying who his mother's favorite son is, and asks if they can go. Mama Winslow continues and brags that Frank has a whirlpool. Did you automatically knew what a whirlpool was when you heard?
I didn't. So my mind immediately went to like Dungeons and Dragons and like this water pool circling and somebody evil looking into it. But that's what I thought. A whirlpool, I didn't know this was something people had in their homes.
Yeah, Google defines whirlpool as either a synonym of a spa bath, a hot tub and jacuzzi, or a rapidly rotating mass of water in a river or sea into which objects may be drawn, typically caused by the meeting of conflicting currents. Either Mama Winslow repeating herself or she's just exaggerating a lot here.
What do you use that for, though? I don't know if I would want to sit in just a pool of swirling water in the bathroom. That'd be a little weird for me.
I don't know. I mean, my only guess is that, whirlpool, if it's like the hot tub jacuzzi thing that Mama Winslow is describing, it's just to soak her brittle bones and maybe have some kind of orgasm that was not expected.
I can't unsee the image I just saw in my own head.
Rest in peace, Rosetta Lenoir. Obviously, we're respecting the late Mama Winslow's legacy here.
Yes, we love you, and it's all out of fun. But wow, that's going to haunt me for a couple of days.
As if you being sick isn't bad enough.
Hey, it takes my mind off of the virus, so boom, I'll take it.
Carl defends his stature by saying he's a cop and Frank makes more money than him because he's a carpet salesman. And I'm thinking maybe Frank is a very lucky carpet salesman because the average salary for those guys in 1989 was around $18,000 compared to Carl's $34,000 at the time. So Frank must have been making bank in commission.
He must have been. He must have really been selling some carpets because that's not a lot of money to have 3 bathrooms even back then.
Yeah. And also, to follow up on your gangster comment, I feel like a carpet salesman, a great front for gangsters. Like, I just think, can you imagine that? Like, just all the money laundering that must be happening at his so-called carpet business.
Yes. And how many movies have we seen, gangster movies, where they wrap the body up in a carpet? He's selling carpets for them to wrap the bodies in.
Hey, wrap up this bloody body for me in a carpet. You'll also have $100,000 in there.
Frank is the one. We figured you out, Frank.
Frank the Bank, Knuckles Winslow. Mama Winslow is still savoring Frank's home life and tells the family they should see his rugs. Harriet got a good chuckle from me with this joke, especially the one on his head. Your imaginary gay writer for Harriet Winslow, I think, on display right there.
On display, you were on point, Harriet. The way she delivered that was glorious.
Mama Winslow actually taking Harriet, making fun of her son in good stride. I feel like some moms would take offense by that, especially coming from a daughter-in-law. Like, what did you say about my boy?
I feel like Mother Winslow is like, okay, Harriet, you're close enough with the family. You know how they behave. So I'm okay with your jokes.
Carl insists to his mother that they have to go, and Rachel picks up Richie's arm for a forced hand wave and encourages him to say bye-bye to Grandma. Rachel repeatedly tries, but Richie has that look on his face like, what the fuck is this woman doing to me? She needs to stop now. I will say mama on my own time. I agree with you, Richie. You are being abused.
You know what it is? It's the trickle-down effect. Carl was forcing Eddie to do all these things. So now Rachel is like, oh, I saw it work for Carl and Eddie. Let me do the same thing with baby Richie. Not gonna work out, girl.
But did it work for Eddie? I mean, we've seen Carl put that pressure down on Eddie. Obviously, at the end of the episodes, like Straight A's and Basketball Blues, we've seen like that's not going to work. And yet Rachel looks at that example and says, oh, it does work. Like, come on now. If that's the case, then Rachel is as dumb as Eddie.
She is, unfortunately. And the character, Rachel, this one, I got to give it to you. You're behaving like Carl, and it's not going to turn out well.
Mama Winslow amusingly says that when Richie is ready to talk, have him call her, which is, that classic grandma thing. Like, all right, child. I don't have much time left on this earth, so just we'll wait until he actually talks.
Right, we'll get there.
All right, and we fade out. We go to scene 2, living room. Harriet is on the center stage couch doing what could be adulty parent paperwork on the coffee table, and I think she's wearing a dressy light gray sweatsuit in this scene.
It is a cute sweatsuit. I want that so bad. Now, the heels I would have changed. The heel was not a good choice. I don't understand them. She should have gone with like a black or like gray booty that could cover her whole foot. And then it would have looked more convincing, but it was cute.
Yeah, I was thinking in this moment, like, damn, it's a sweatsuit, but like Harriet makes it look like it should be on the runway. Like she just knows how to dress even the most casual things up.
Mm-hmm. The belt with it, the shoes, the nails, the lipstick, her makeup. It was just good. It was a really good outfit. It's probably my favorite outfit on her so far. Carl
enters from the exterior door and greets Harriet with a hey, dumpling. Are you a fan of dumplings? I've never been a fan of dumplings. Like my family would put it in like hot Haitian soup when I was a kid, and I would just always put that thing to the side and just eat everything else. I don't like dumplings.
I like Asian dumplings, the ones that are like filled with stuff and they're like pan fried or steamed, but I don't like bread dumplings, like in chicken and dumpling soup where it's just like a mass of bread. I don't like that kind of dumpling.
Yeah. So Asians, great at dumplings. Black people could use some work.
Yeah. Just don't ball up your bread and throw it in there and call it a dumpling. That's not a dumpling.
All right. Harriet greets Carl with a hi, baby, and asks if his mother's travel itinerary went according to plan. Carl says she was right on time, and all his mother could talk about on the way to the train station was Frank's bathrooms. Carl says he promised his mother that when she comes back, there will be a shower in her bathroom and she won't have to rent the towels. Carl Winslow giving in to the mother's not so kind son comparison. And, you got to remember, Carl, she's a guest in your house. If she doesn't like the way it's built, she can find somewhere else to live. Get that self-esteem going, man.
I want Carl to put his foot down on this one. Like, we have a bathroom, Mom, and you need to learn how to share it with everybody else in this house.
Carl is determined to get started on this house project right away, but Harriet tells him to wait a minute as he's about to go up the stairs. Harriet says she knew she should have gone to the station with Carl because she doesn't know what he's talking about, and I don't blame her because, it seemed like we suddenly went from, Mom, Frank has his life and I have mine. Like Carl seemed to be, asserting himself for a brief moment there, and then all of a sudden it's like, damn it, Mom doesn't like how she lives in my house, so I got to renovate my entire house to get my mother to like me more. Like, what?
Carl is desperate for approval. He's like, I will destroy this house just to make my mom happy.
I think Carl and Mama Winslow are overdue for therapy, group therapy.
Oh, yeah. A whole family therapy session. Everybody needs it here.
Carl tells Harriet they need another shower, and he figures with being able to work nights and weekends, he should be done with this clearly unrealistic project by the time his mama gets back. So we're setting up, of course, for how Carl is just going to fail miserably at this. The kids, Eddie, Laura, Judy, like the way that they're all fighting for shower time. Yeah, you could use another shower, but if Carl's whole frank comparison complex that he has with his mother, if that weren't like there, then the shower would not even be a conversation.
It wouldn't be. This shower would not be a conversation if there wasn't that competitiveness, if Mama Winslow didn't contribute to that competitiveness, but she really did, because she kept talking about Frank and all the other brothers and how they were doing so much better than Carl. But Mama Winslow, why aren't any of these children of yours that you're gloating about asking you to stay with them? So there's some issues here that they're not addressing.
Harriet stops Carl with her classic sassy hands on the hips with a cocked neck to the side as he's about to leave and wants to confirm that he really isn't thinking about doing this by himself. Carl exaggeratingly imitates Harriet's posture and asks why not. Harriet reasonably says because she doesn't want Carl ripping up the house and forcing the family to live in a hotel, and then she exits to the kitchen. Carl says he only did that once and then follows Harriet to the kitchen as he follows up with reminding Harriet that incident was before he joined the Tool of the Month Club. Have you ever heard of something called the Tool of the Month Club, Andrew? That sounds like one of those fake Macho Man things.
It does sound like one of those fake Macho Man things. And I've heard of like the Jelly of the Month, the like something of the month. I've heard of the Tool of the Month. I want to say like a National Lampoon movie, but that's it. I've never seen it in real life.
I feel like this is something like Tim Allen's character from Home Improvement would just reference. The Tool of the Month. I'm Tool Tim. Yeah, if I had to guess, the Tool of the Month Club, it's like a club for like manly men to judge which house project tool deserves to be used the most for an entire month. That's my idea.
I just don't understand tools. So I'm like, is it really that like often that you're going to use a tool that you need this specific tool for the month? Men are always building something, and lesbians, and I love you, and I say that lovingly, but lesbians do woodworking projects that I've seen that I love. And I want to know, do you have a Tool of the Month Club?
There we go. Great question. Carl insists to Harriet that he happens to be very good with his hands as he goes into the fridge to get some bread. Carl reminds Harriet that he built that swing set for the kids. Harriet, looking through some mail, reminds Carl that he did not because the wood is still sitting in the garage. Carl and Harriet then do this verbal back and forth where Carl claims he did projects that he really didn't do. He asks, who put up the shelf? Harriet says she did. Carl asks, who built that birdhouse? Harriet asks if he's talking about the one that was condemned by the Audubon Society, which did you already know what the Audubon Society was when she made that comment?
No, I assumed it had to do something with birds, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah, according to Google, it is actually a nationwide thing. It is based on John James Audubon, who was a well-known ornithologist. And, here I was at Reno for a moment thinking like, oh, yeah, Harriet's talking about Cinnabons, the Cinnabon Audubon Society. And I just like this idea that there's an entire society that has the time to investigate one birdhouse in some Chicago neighborhood. Like, it really must have been that bad what Carl was attempting to do with this project.
It had to be. I mean, if you said they're from Germany and they came all the way over here to Chicago, that's a problem.
Carl seems to give up continuing this back and forth with Harriet and insists that bathroom fixtures is what he's talking about and it's in its own category. Carl claims that showers come in kits nowadays and a mere child could do it. Why do I feel like Carl is using like a child's toy set as an example? Because do showers really come in these easy, accessible kits? Like, I feel like it's a lot more complicated than that.
I wonder, as soon as I heard him say that, I Googled shower kit and I didn't find anything like a shower in a box. I got like the curtain rods, the bath mats, the shower curtain and that stuff, but not the physical shower. So I have no idea.
Harriet knows Carl means well, but insists that plumbing is way out of his league league and that they ought to get an estimate from a contractor. Carl is insulted by this contractor suggestion because it's just throwing away money. Carl then sniffs suspiciously and asks what's burning. Harriet says the toaster is broken again, which is the last thing that Carl supposedly fixed. Carl goes over to the toaster on the countertop, and as he nudges it a little, a burnt piece of toast quickly pops up from one of the slots and drops to the floor. Carl and Harriet are startled. Harriet giving Carl the sassy, well, what did I tell you? Look. And Carl gives his classic nervous goofball smile and says, hey, just like new. And then we see the toaster have like this electrocution orgasm. Out of control, Andrew. Remember that moment?
I do. And I'm like, what is going on with this toaster?
Smoke coming out of it. It's making that sound like an invention a scientist is hammering away at in a factory late at night. Carl somehow thinking it's a great idea to spray a fire extinguisher all over this smoky toaster, which that's a scene from the opening credit sequence that we see over and over. So that's a great callback there.
It is. This toaster, though, it gave me like an early Urkel introduction vibe. I was waiting for Urkel to come through the door and fix this toaster now that it's having this random short out.
And you know what? It could have been perfect. Like Carl just like, oh, this explosion, toaster explosion. And then Urkel looking at him like, look what you did.
That would be perfect.
Yes. That's where Urkel would have made sense, not these weird cold opens. Somehow the extinguisher works on the toaster, and Carl concedes to Harriet that they can go ahead with one estimate. We go to scene 3, living room. Carl and Harriet with the contractor taking notes, and right away, here we go. Susan Merson, our guest at some point, playing Sylvia the contractor. I'm drawn to her accent, and she has did you remember her bobbed hairstyle with bangs?
Yeah, she has a very distinctive hairstyle with this bang bob thing going on. And it gave me, what's her name? Reba McEntire. Like early Reba is what I was looking at when I was looking at her hair.
And I'm getting strict German teacher vibes from Sylvia the contractor. So suddenly it's like Brooklyn, New Jersey. And then, Hitler. It's like, wow, this is a very layered character that we have here.
This character, you can tell she's been through some stuff. Like, she's like, I'm not here for the crap, and I deal with men like you all the time.
And I was also questioning what the fabric of that like brown jacket she's wearing to match the brown banged bob.
It's very matchy. I couldn't understand what the fabric was. It was a choice. It was a choice, and she is probably the worst dressed character in this whole episode.
If you want a great shadowed explanation of how horrible someone dresses, you always just say, that's a choice.
Yes.
Carl says this shower project has to be done within 10 days, which is stupid because you can just tell your mom that the shower will be ready when it's ready. Your mom lives with you. There's no rush unless she's going to have a heart attack like tomorrow.
Right. Like, I didn't understand his franticness about it unless it's just for the approval of Mother Winslow. But the way he was behaving is like he was making it a surprise, but she knew he was going to build it.
Carl reminds the contractor that this is a present for his mother. The contractor looks up confusingly and says that she always gives her mother a book. Yeah, why not, Carl? Follow Sylvia the contractor. A book of some flowers. Just go with that. I mean, if it's 50 Shades of Grey as a book, that's fine. You know, it's awkward, but middle-aged moms like that.
There you go. You're just like, hey, I got your little book here. Read this in your own time when you're in the bathroom. No other place in the house, please. Just this is for you. Like, I would imagine that, but I am with the contractor. Just get her a book. Like, Carl, you don't have to do this.
I literally would give my mom flowers for her birthday and Mother's Day for a series of years. And then I had the birthday card recently for this year. So especially when you have a mom that's hard to shop for, you just kind of accept that and you just go simple. That's all.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. My mom, we would always do dinners, brunch. She was a food person, or just like, oh, I just want this to go to the spa. Okay, I got you covered, girl.
Harriet offers to get something cold for all three of them to drink and then gives Carl a look like, don't you dare screw this up. As Harriet exits to the kitchen, the contractor is determining the estimate through paperwork she's writing on attached to a clipboard. And then she tears out the paperwork from the clipboard and hands Carl the damage. You know, I love that old dad term. Oh, what's the damage?
Mm-hmm.
And Carl gives a classic frugal dad response. Whoa! Carl nervously laughs and says he's real bad at bargaining. So he's going to ask Sylvia straight out, are you crazy? Sylvia says she's doing the best she can and giving him materials at cost. Carl says this is way, 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 way more than he wanted to spend. Sylvia says he'll never get anybody to do the project for less than her cost, which I'm sure is what we always hear from these kind of people. But if Carl is smart, he's going to do his research and get back to Sylvia later. But of course, we're not dealing with a smart Carl Winslow. We're dealing with the goofball Carl Winslow. And I know he's going to insist to Sylvia he'll just do the job himself. I would just try to find cheaper alternatives to contractor work.
That's all you got to do, Carl. Shop around. He went with her word as the only word in the beginning. But then on top of that, she knows what she's doing. And if you would cut back on maybe 12 robes and maybe 10 pounds of newspaper, you could afford this bathroom.
And also maybe the random the stacks of donuts on a plate. That might contribute to more contractor money coming in.
Right. Stop getting fresh donuts every morning. Stop all these extra things and just pay for the bathroom.
Sylvia guesses that Carl is a member of the Tool of the Month Club. Carl braggingly says, yes, he is, with that charming smile of his. Sylvia says she thought so and then gave me a chuckle when she says she'll be seeing Carl soon. Carl's smile goes upside down as Sylvia exits the living room. Carl crumples up the paper with the estimate and throws it on the coffee table like the carefree, stupid dad he is. And then he just walks away toward the kitchen where we see Harriet pour what I think is iced tea in glasses on the countertop. Maybe it's that super caffeinated iced tea from was it the pilot episode?
She's about to get Carl all pumped up on caffeine to make a decision.
Yeah, that unhealthy 80s caffeine. Let's go. Carl leans in on the swinging door and gives me a laugh as he looks to Harriet with his goofy smile and asks if he has told her how pretty her hair looks today. And, right away we know that Carl is just a little nervous to tell Harriet that he turned down the contractor. Harriet not putting up with that nonsense. She asks Carl where Sylvia is. Carl awkwardly says he let her go, and Harriet quickly replies that she'll see if she can catch her. Carl puts his foot forward and tells Harriet Sylvia is long gone by now. She wanted way too much money and insists he can do the shower job himself. Harriet is outraged at Carl and tells him he doesn't have a clue on how to put in a shower. Carl says all you do is just rip out your linen closet, run your pipes, install your lines, pop your shower in. What could be simpler? Sounds like he's talking out of his ass.
Yes, all of this sounds incredibly complicated, and it's probably not even the basics parts of what you have to do.
Harriet says the simple thing to do would be hiring Sylvia because she's asked around and you cannot find anybody cheaper. Carl tells Harriet he's good and he's free, which feels like, I feel like that's like a pickup line that I've heard before from some desperate guy. Hey, look at me. I'm free of charge. My nipples and my penis are open. Let's go. I'm not paying you anything, or you're not paying me anything.
It's only going to go bad. That's how you end up in a hotel room missing your kidneys. Don't do it.
Carl pleads with Harriet that he really wants to do this project himself. Harriet asks how can that be when Sylvia has to work with a crew. Enter Eddie from the back porch, gleefully saying hi to his parents and, of course, being oblivious to the fact that Carl is about to ask him for help. Carl motions his hand toward Eddie and delightfully tells Harriet to meet his crew. Carl has a skip in his step as he walks over to Eddie and tells him that he's going to help put a shower in his grandmother's bathroom. And as Eddie, I'd be like, Dad, I think it was more than enough that you forced me to live in the attic in one episode so that grandma could sleep in my room. Hello.
You forced me to live in the attic. Now I got to build her a shower. And who knows if I even get to use the shower once she's out of this house.
You did that. You pressured me into getting good grades and playing basketball. Like, leave me alone, Dad. Lay off.
Yes, let me just be a kid.
Eddie is afraid of what his dad is taking on and asks if this will be like the time they put up the spice rack. And I had to look at Google, Andrew, at like how small a spice rack is. And all I could think of when I looked at that, I was like, whoa, Jesus, Carl, definitely stay away from the shower.
If you can't hang up a rack, get away from the shower.
Carl takes a beat and tells Eddie that this will only take a week because, yes, sure, we should trust a man who takes more than a week to put up a spice rack to build an entire damn shower in less time.
Right? Like, this spice rack must have been intricate if that took you longer than a week to get it up.
We go to scene 4 in the kitchen. Rachel is saying testing 1, 2 to a tape recorder while holding Richie. Laura sitting next to her and Judy standing up and fiddling her arm around in a fishbowl for some reason because, again, Judy just has to find every way to feel useful in this show. It's like, if I'm not speaking, I got to do some behind the scenes actor business right now.
Yes, I watched this scene by itself for about 2 hours because I was trying to figure out, do they ever acknowledge Judy with this fishbowl? What is Judy doing with this fishbowl? So I noticed first there's a real fish inside of the fishbowl. And then she's putting a piece of the castle, like one of those like little fish things inside the fishbowl. And she sits the fishbowl on the table and that's it. I don't understand why she had to do this in the kitchen. Why couldn't she just put this fishbowl in her bedroom? I want to know about this fishbowl because nobody acknowledges it. Not a single person.
And especially if you are doing something specific like that with a fishbowl that gets your attention, it'll probably get a lot of other viewers' attention. And you would think, okay, like you're drawing my attention with this, so it must contribute to the story in some way. But no, it's either Jamie being directed by, I think it was John Boab or whoever directed this episode, maybe instructed by the director, like, oh, yeah, do something, do some business while everybody else is talking and being more important than you. Or Jamie was just so bored that she just improvised something to keep herself busy.
That's what it feels like, because there's a second part of the scene where the fishbowl gets lifted and moved to the other table in the kitchen, all while we have the other side of the scene of them bringing in all the equipment here. So I just wanted to know, like, maybe she came up with this and thought, like, oh, let me do something natural so I can be in the scene. Or was it like, oh, give Judy something to do so she's here, but not spoken at all?
Rachel tells Richie they're ready to roll, clearly indicating she's trying to preserve proof of her 9-month-old baby talking. And Laura tells Rachel she doesn't know why the tape recorder is needed because all Richie does is drool. Rachel says this is a historic moment because they will all listen to this recording when Richie is grown up and president. And automatically, Andrew, I'm imagining Richie Crawford as the first Black president instead of Obama. How would that have turned out?
That would have been amazing. That would have been a glorious moment. The first Black president started on Family Matters. I've been happy. I just want to know, Rachel, how are you planning to keep this cassette tape for that long?
And also, if Richie was the first Black president, probably the first year in office would have just be him like in privacy in the Oval Office having therapy over the traumatic, pressuring experiences by his mother to say his first word over and over and over again.
I can see him now. He's like, every time I hear mama, I go insane. Everything just blacks out.
North Korea, we're at war. Mama. Oh, sorry, North Korea. Let me talk to my therapist for a moment. Rachel encourages Richie to say mama again. Richie isn't responding, and Laura says maybe he'll be vice president, which is, of course, a brilliant joke if you think about it, because, you know, vice president known for not really doing anything other than literally just waiting for the president to die.
Yes, the ultimate position. My career goal is to be vice president. I just get to sit around and look cute and get paid. Sold.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally you'll go to ceremonial things like funerals and whatnot, but like, yeah, you're just waiting for the president to die. And if they don't die, it's like, oh, yeah, 8 years of getting paid for doing nothing.
Right. I'm kind of there with that. I mean, now they do some stuff, like you said, and they have some importance to the role. But I am not opposed to just being able to sit back and drink iced tea and wait for you to pass away so I can take over. Sold.
Hyper 80s caffeinated iced tea as vice president. Let's go. All right, enter Carl and Eddie from the back porch door, dragging the shower they're about to install in Mama Winslow's bathroom. And I can already see that we're about to get into another scene that we see often in the opening credits, where Eddie crashes that pole through the glass on the door with a stock glass crash sound effect that you just get on YouTube if YouTube even existed back then.
Yeah, totally stock. We've heard the same glass sound when the brioche bun went through the window, and then it's the exact same sound. Like I went and I played the episode. I was like, is this the same sound? It's literally the exact same sound. And then it's the only sound bite that's in the opening that's not covered by the soundtrack, which I just found interesting. I don't know why, but they chose to leave that sound in deliberately in the opening.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like if the Family Matters show was existent today, the sound effects team would literally be lazy. They would say, oh, let's find like what some lazy 14-year-old nerd in his boxers in his grandma's basement produced on YouTube, and let's grab that sound effect. Like, that's just how bad the sound effects were back then.
They were bad. I meant to mention it, the toaster sound, when the toast comes flying out of the toaster, it's a terrible stock sound that we hear. So like these sounds that they use, not good, not interesting. But also in this scene, when they bring in the bathtub, did you notice how they're bringing it in? And then Carl's like, oh, It's caught on the rug. As he's saying that, Judy is moving the fishbowl from the kitchen table, well, the, I guess, dining room table to the kitchen counter table for some reason. And she almost gets run over by Carl, but nobody acknowledges that either.
I really did not notice that. You know, what I love about like this recap is that we don't, I bet you in the original television airing, if you're watching this episode live on TV back in 1989, you don't give a fuck what Judy's doing. Judy's not contributing anything to the scene. So she's like, whatever, background nonsense. But now, as Judy is getting her flowers, like more than 30 years later, we can pick up like, oh, what's Judy doing here? What's Judy doing there? I mean, it's really fascinating. I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, it's fascinating how now me, myself, watching it when they were aired, didn't pay much attention to it. But now, rewatching it as an adult, I'm like, so this little girl almost gets run over by you with the bathtub, carrying her little poor goldfish. What else is going to happen to this girl?
Carl is flabbergasted by the glass crash and simply tells Eddie too much and grabs the pole from him. Carl is swinging the pole around and makes a noise with it as he bumps it onto the shower, which understandably startles Rachel. I'm surprised it didn't startle poor Richie.
Right. Richie didn't even react, but Rachel had the reaction.
Rachel asks Carl and Eddie if they're going to be working near her room. Carl and Eddie ignore her question and keep moving the shower across the kitchen floor. Laura is in the mood to play the dick middle child again and tells Eddie that Lori Martin called and wants to know if Eddie can meet her at the roller rink this afternoon, which will clearly put Eddie in a tug of war between helping his dad or going after a girl he likes. And I think in this moment, Laura doesn't grasp that she's also setting her dad up to fail here. Like, I get just Eddie, but if Eddie and your dad too, what do you have against your dad?
Laura is just firing shots at everybody. I think she knew. She was like, I'm going to insult Dad subliminally because he will get on me if I actually say something about him.
Eddie happily cannot believe that Lori Martin called him and asked Laura what she told her. Laura says she told Lori that Eddie will be in the bathroom for a week. That's literally all she said. And I think we had this conversation before. I mean, I don't. When they become older, you know, teenagers going into the young adults, does Laura pick on Eddie at this level?
Still picks on him every now and then, but it's definitely not as harsh.
Eddie rolls his eyes and puts his head up to the ceiling, realizing he'll probably never speak to Lori again. And then we fade to scene 5. Mama Winslow's bathroom. Carl is measuring the wall, and Eddie, leaning by the door, is asking Dad why he is always the one who has to help. Carl replies with what I'd expect a dad to say in a sitcom in 1989. Because, son, we're the men in the house, and working with our hands is what men do. Oh, Carl.
Oh, Carl. Way to go, Carl. Passing on stereotypes. Way to go.
If we don't make this a t-shirt by the end of this recap idea, then I don't know what we are going to do. Just Mama Winslow's deadpan face and then the caption, way to go, Carl.
Yes, we need it.
As Carl goes back to measuring, Eddie asks, what do women do? And if you think about it, very valid question in response to Carl's black and white kind of sexist remark. And, you know, I'm just inviting Carl, please, give me more of your sexism right now, Carl. Carl stares Eddie down seriously while holding the measuring tape up, puts the tape down and his head down to think for a minute, and then says, you know, I don't know, son, which is like, okay. An exchange that just probably doesn't hold up well today.
Not at all. Carl, you wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for Harriet. None of it.
As Eddie moves closer to see what his dad is doing, Harriet enters and asks how everything is going. Carl says it's great, and him and Eddie are ready to rip out this wall. Harriet still thinks Carl should call a contractor, and Carl is fine with that because maybe the contractor can learn something from him. Hardy har har. Carl playfully pats Eddie on the chest, and they have, you know, just the nicest, most ignorant, most stubborn, manly men laugh.
It's a very awkward laugh, but it's very ignorant where it's like, Harriet knew what was going to happen.
Harriet giving me a chuckle in this moment with her arms crossed, looking at these two like the dumb idiots they are. Carl tells Harriet to excuse him and Eddie as they have some serious shower installing to do. And then he continues to have a ridiculous, hearty laugh that, you know, honestly, I do find kind of amusing. I mean, you know, the sexist stuff I could do without, but Reginald, again, still finds that amusing charm in Carl that makes him tolerable.
He does. He has this way to just give you a soft punch with a little laugh. And it's like, okay, I get it, Carl.
You pudgy funny man. You go on with your pudge.
His little pudge. I love it.
The pudge fudge. That should be a nice thing. Carl, the pudge fudge.
That sounds like a cute little stuffed animal. I would take it.
Harriet sarcastically tells Carl that if he needs anything, the women folk will be out there churning the butter and tending to the youngins. And then she exits. I mean, Harriet, come on, that snappy wit. Yeah, there you go, imaginary gay writer. I love that line.
I love it. That's a great line. I'm probably going to steal that at some point.
Please do. Please do. I mean, it's like 35 years old. So there's going to be a lot of people that don't even remember that's from Family Matters.
They won't, but the ones who do, you'll be a part of the cult of robes, and I'm excited to meet you.
Culty robes and snappy, witty comebacks. Let's do this. That should be a new podcast idea once we're done with this one.
That should be. We can recruit people.
So let's have a podcast where the hosts are literally wearing robes every episode, and all we do is just bounce back our favorite Harriet Winslow comebacks.
I could do that. Now, all the cult members have to watch this in complete silence, and it's like they're getting their religious moment of the day.
Yes, and then you have to put a knife through your pinky finger and give us a little bit of your blood, your pinky blood, because that's what cults do. They exchange blood.
Okay, blood and robes. Ooh.
All righty. Carl tells Eddie that they should get this puppy started, and they've got to start by finding the stud beam and work from there. I had to Google because I don't know anything about building showers. Studs are vertical 2x4-inch beams that support the frame of your home. Did you already know this?
I knew this because I watch HGTV, but I did not know the definition that you just gave.
Carl taps the hammer several times on the wall and says, "Hollow," and repeats the process a couple of times until he finds the right spot, and then tells Eddie to hand him a nail so he can mark it. Carl passes safety goggles to Eddie and encourages him to put them on because safety first. No, Carl, dumbness first, then safety second. That's what you're actually doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Carl puts on his goggles, which are so fucking filled with like this dirty asbestos thing that I'm convinced like will permanently infect Carl's eyes if he doesn't wash them. Did you notice that?
I did. Those goggles look dangerous. I was like, you should not put those on. As soon as I saw the goggles, it looks like his eyes are going to be like ground with glass.
Yeah, literally. It almost looked like the jelly donut powder that Carl was eating like a little while ago. Like, wow, you had a good time with that donut and you just put it in your goggles.
He's got to see the flower.
Exactly. Eddie puts on the goggles too. Carl hammers in a nail to the wall, which makes me nervous whenever I see that kind of thing, because I always think, you know, Andrew, someone is just going to hurt their hand with that hammer. It's such a delicate, careful thing you try to do, but it's like, nope, it always ends badly.
I can't ever recall hammering something successfully without hurting myself. So I get that feeling too where I'm like, oh no, don't do this. You're going to hurt yourself.
And then, of course, what does Carl do? Exactly. He hurts his thumb big time and he screams, oh, ow, ow. In frustration with the pain, Carl slams the hammer on the ground, which lands on his foot. And now he's crying in pain because his foot is hurting. Carl is hopping on one foot and stumbling back onto the wall. And Eddie reacts by opening the door for some reason because, again, dumb Eddie. I mean, I think Eddie is probably no more dumber than this moment right here because he's just watching his dad unfold in worsening his mother's bathroom. Like, Eddie could do something, but he's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to watch Dad.
He's like, I'm just going to open the door because I was recruited against my will for this.
And now Carl is just fucking going apeshit. He's hanging on to a rack filled with toiletry products, and one of them seems to be this powder that drops on him along with all the other things. Carl kicks a bucket that was stuck to his leg toward the direction of the bathroom mirror, which knocks the mirror down, and then the glass crashes. And I think we're getting that same stocky sound effect that was horrible from the earlier scene.
We are. It's the same exact sound.
Finally, the madness stops for a moment, and Carl looks around incredulously to take in the mess that he made with Eddie hiding behind the door instead of, I don't know, helping his dad out so that he doesn't make any more messes. Oblivious, dumb, useless Eddie.
This one, I would have let it all happen. I would have just sat and watched, like, you recruited me and I had plans. So I'm going to watch you get hurt over here.
For me, it's a mixed bag. One, yes, Carl needs to learn his lesson, but at the same time, if Carl's my dad and he somehow gets me to the moment where I have to help him out, at that moment, it's like, all right, let's just try to make this the best as possible. And God knows I don't want you to get hurt, Dad. I don't want Mama's bathroom to get hurt. So I probably would do a mixture of privately, I told you so in my head, but also doing what I can to prevent Carl from furthering making a mess.
John, you have me beat morally because I'm pulling out my phone and recording and saying, Dad, this is what you did. This was you, and you forced me to be here for this.
Instead of, being disgusted and running away from the guy jacking off on the subway train, you're like, oh, okay, this is a moment for YouTube.
Well, I'm not going near that. Oh, no, I'm going to just get off the train and say, well, this is New York City for you. And I will just keep going.
Fair enough. After looking around, Carl tries to diffuse the tension by saying, okay, that stud beam's marked. And then we get a moment of Carl and Eddie looking around like, oh, shit, what do we do now? As we fade to black on this scene. That would have been another moment. Urkel coming in. Look what you did.
That would have been perfect. Perfect timing.
Scene 6. In the kitchen, Rachel feeding Richie by the countertop and Harriet carrying a pot of coffee to the kitchen table for Carl, who is seated and very depressed from his shower project fiasco. And geez, Harriet must be feeling really sorry for him to let him sit by the table with his extremely dirty clothes and goggles. I feel like the Harriet thing would have been like, excuse me, like, clean up first.
Oh, that would have been me and Harriet. I would have been like, okay, I don't care how hurt you are, go get in that shower.
Yeah, go get in the shower that doesn't really exist because you thought you could build one.
I would not let Carl use our regular shower in the house at all. I would encourage him by saying, okay, if you want a shower, you have to finish that shower that you decided to start on your own.
Carl thanks Harriet for the coffee, and Harriet gives a sympathetic nod. Can we just remind ourselves that Harriet is too good of a wife? She's very, very patient with dumbass Carl. Because, like, I wouldn't blame her at this moment for telling Carl off, for letting him know, like, see, I told you so. But instead, she knows that Carl is hurt. She knows that this project meant a lot to him. She's deciding to hold the pride inside and just be the comforting spouse because she just sees that he really wanted to make this work.
I get her. She's a supportive spouse and she wants to be there to help. She's enabling this behavior and you got to put your foot down. Your house is going to get destroyed.
So how is she enabling this behavior? Because she does tell Carl like over and over again that it's a bad idea. So do you think that she should get to the point where she physically takes action to stop enabling the behavior? Should she punch Carl or call the cops? I don't know. Like, what should she do? Because there's only so much she can do, without physical abuse, I think.
She should have called Sylvia back. She should have been like, look, I'm going to bring somebody else in here and let them actually start this for us. Let's see everything we would need. Because at this point, Carl's not only hurt himself, he's destroyed multiple things inside their home. Who knows what the extent of the damage would truly be if this was a real plumbing situation. And Harriet's just sitting there like, oh, it'll get better. Here's some coffee. And she knows it's not going to get better. She's enabling it because she's not stopping it early enough where it could have been stopped at before more damage was done. Now, again, Carl's an adult. He has his own responsibilities. He has his own decisions that he can make. But by Harriet enabling this by saying it's going to be okay when she knows it's not going to be, that's a problem for me.
Well, Harriet, I guess our suggestion, I don't know about you, but my suggestion probably would be call Sylvia the contractor. And hopefully Sylvia the contractor has some Louis Farrakhan Nation of Islam bodyguards with her to physically tear Carl out of the bathroom so that he has no choice but to stay out of the situation and let apparently the Nation of Islam bodyguards do the work. Because I guess they're also there to fix or build a shower for Mama Winslow in addition to their love of Allah.
Yes, you'll get a pamphlet and a new bathroom.
It's a nice 2-in-1 deal. Nice 2-in-1 deal. Hey, Malcolm X, let's build you a shower and let you know about Malcolm X while we build you a shower.
Oh, have you heard of your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Well, he's not Allah. Here you go.
Yeah, I thought you were going to do a Christianity swerve there, but it's like, nope. Your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, you know him? Well, Allah is better. As Carl picks up the mug to drink, we see his thumb wrapped up a million times over with that white bandage thing. Harriet walks back over to the countertop where Rachel is giving baby talk to Richie as she's feeding him and trying yet again to make him say, Mama. Oh, Rachel cannot accept defeat. Just try again in another 3 months, woman.
Yeah, let the child be a child.
Harriet reminds Rachel that Richie is a baby and not a parrot. Rachel says Richie really said mama a few days ago, and it was clear as a bell. Harriet tells Rachel that sometimes babies will say words and then weeks will go by before they say it again. Camera cuts to Carl hanging his face on his fist to reveal 2 seriously bandaged thumbs. And he tells Rachel that maybe Richie burped and she thought he said mama. Seems like a stretch, Carl, and Rachel, I think, gives the appropriate facial expression to that. Maybe Carl's shower fixing depression disaster thing has just got him not understanding logic right now.
He breathed into asbestos.
Yeah, you breathe into asbestos and it just gets to your brain. Yep, I agree with that, Andrew. Rachel insists to Carl that Richie did really say mama, and she's going to put it on tape to prove it to everybody. Rachel gets up with Richie and tells him that they're going to put this word to syllables if they have to, and she exits. Harriet puts a plate in the sink and asks Carl when she can see the bathroom. Carl says not yet, and it's still a work in progress. Eddie and him do not want anyone to see it until it's finished. Kitchen wall phone rings, and Harriet goes to answer it. It's Mother Winslow, and Harriet wants to know how Frank is. Mama Winslow says something on the other end that we cannot hear, and Harriet replies with, well, I know he's cheap, and then thanks Mother Winslow for calling and says goodbye, which I found actually, that's just the most random, quickest phone call you could ever have with your mother-in-law.
It is. That was quick and easy. Harriet knows how to handle a phone conversation.
Hey, look, I appreciate the conciseness because sometimes people just drag on the phone for hours and you just want to be like, all right, child, I got some brioche bread to get to and some Last of Us on TV. Please get the fuck off my phone.
Yes, get off of our phone. We have things to do, which The Last of Us is delicious. Now I have to talk to you about that later.
Carl asks Harriet if his mother wanted to talk to him, and Harriet says yes, but Mama Winslow was calling from the payphone in Frank's kitchen. Can you really get a payphone installed in your kitchen? Was that a thing back in the day?
I wonder if it is real, and if it was real, I would want one. I think payphones look so cool.
I actually did some digging. I found a 1986 New York Times article, and it was actually legal. They were talking about how it was legal for average Joes to install payphones anywhere in the state. Maybe the state of Illinois was coming around to that idea because, you know, obviously you put quarters in and you make dough that way. All right, fine. I guess we can add to the change jar.
I think that would be kind of cool. Like, oh, you need to make a call? Go use the payphone over there.
Harriet tells Carl his mother will talk to him tomorrow night when she gets home. Carl is confused because his mother is supposed to be gone for another 4 days. Harriet says Mama Winslow cannot stand to be with Frank much longer because the other day at a restaurant, he made her order from the children's menu. Here's the thing. I mean, yeah, rich people, they don't need to be stingy. They have the money. But at the same time, it's because they're stingy with money that maybe that's why they have a lot of it. They just know how to properly invest and save and spend it.
Mm-hmm. When you know not to spend the money, sometimes that works out in your favor and you have more money. I could see how that could work. And I used to watch people who I'm like, oh, they dress like they save all their money. So they probably have a lot of money, and typically it worked out that way.
Eddie comes down the stairs into the kitchen dressed up and says goodnight to everyone. But Carl stops him to ask where he's going. Eddie says out, and Carl says that's not happening because Mama Winslow is coming home tomorrow night and they have to finish that shower tonight. And here I thought Carl had the sense to give up on this project after that fiasco in the last scene. I mean, he was depressed. He was on the table. I mean, it just seemed like it was all there. But nope, he's still stubborn. And he's getting poor Eddie into this mess when Eddie just wants to be a teenager. Come on, Carl. Again, did you not learn from episode 5 and 6?
Right. Carl just wanted to just get this done, but Eddie just wants to be a kid. And now the tool of the month joke made perfect sense to me because they weren't talking about actual tools. They were calling Carl a tool. He's behaving like one.
Carl is a tool and a dick all rolled up into one.
Mm-hmm. Dick tool.
Yeah. or tool dick. Old Carl Tool Dick Winslow.
I like that. It's a great name. That's like, could you imagine Carl being a wrestler and that's his name that he gets introduced by?
Wait, which one? Tool Dick or Dickie Tool?
Dickie Tool.
Yeah, there's old Dickie Tool there without a brain. So Eddie tells his dad he made plans, and Carl says the plans have to be changed. Eddie physically cries out, "Oh, Dad!" with his hands. Oh, Darius just really acting there. And he accidentally slams the hands on Carl's thumbs, which caused Carl to cry out in pain and give Eddie a frustrated, grunty sigh. Fade to next scene. Well, you know, Darius, maybe if you didn't act so physically, you wouldn't have hurt Carl like that.
I mean, Carl deserved it. He is impeding on Eddie again. So maybe not physical violence, but this is brought on by you, Carl. Your actions are getting you here.
Scene 7, Mama Winslow's bathroom. Carl and Eddie working on the shower, and Harriet, Laura, and Judy enters and looks around like, oh boy. Harriet tells Carl she thought he and Eddie were almost finished. Carl says he is. The hard part is done and everything else is just cosmetic. Harriet is flabbergasted and says this doesn't need cosmetics. It needs major surgery. That cosmetic thing, I've been learning a lot from my wife, Tony, who I told you, Andrew, is a lot more handy than I am when it comes to how a house is constructed. You know, anytime when something's not a big deal to fix and we can fix ourselves, my wife is like, oh yeah, that's just cosmetic stuff. We could do that ourselves.
I see that. I see that a lot. Ooh.
Laura does an amusing callback and says that this is worse than the time her dad tried to put up the spice rack. Great callback to the spice rack. I love this spice rack stuff. Judy excitingly asks her mom if this means they can go to a hotel again. And wow, I mean, Judy must really love that room service and cable TV and maybe indoor pool because who knows? I mean, maybe that's where she was sent after she was done with the show.
She went to the hotel.
And where do most murders get caused? In hotels.
Yes, the hotel, which just a little lead into next episode. There's a hotel.
There is, isn't there?
There is.
So I started recapping episode 9, but I haven't gone all the way through. So that really sparks my curiosity. Harriet asks Laura and Judy to leave them alone for a moment. Laura tells Judy to pack bags just in case, and they both exit. Harriet tells Eddie to take a break because she needs to talk to his dad. Eddie is relieved and thanks his mom and says he won't forget this as he hugs her. I mean, I'm surprised Harriet let him hug her in his dirty work clothes, given this, purple, pink, blue, flowery pattern button down that she's wearing with the black dress pants and the heels to match. It's like, Harriet, I mean, you spend so much time and effort dressing yourself up so finely for the house. Just keep it clean.
Yeah, I was expecting her to be like, hey, don't try to hug me. Hang on. Like, that outfit she had on was pristine.
Harriet shuts the door and tells Carl this has gone far enough. And with a fucking stern, fed up mother tone that even I'm a little scared by, Harriet demands to Carl that he give this all up and call a contractor. Remember when she put that foot down there?
Uh-huh. That's what I needed Harriet to do a scene ago. Stop this now so that way it doesn't go any further, because that was going to be bad.
Yeah, and I think the audience for a moment was just like, whoa, okay, Harriet's serious. Carl, take her seriously now.
Right? Carl, get out of that house. She's going to hurt you.
Carl insists to Harriet that he can finish this. He is so close. The plumbing is done, and that's the hard part. Harriet asks if the shower is working. Carl says absolutely, and he will show her. Carl turns the shower faucet on, but somehow that turns the bathroom sink faucet on instead. I was thinking at this moment, I was like, wow, man, Carl really fucked up to make this happen, because this is a lot of shit happening right now. Carl is confused and says he doesn't get it and did everything right, but Harriet is noticing the bathroom sink faucet and tells Carl there is water coming from the sink. Carl tells Harriet to turn it off. She does, but then that makes the shower head turn on, which Carl stands in front of, not expecting. So now he's been sprayed like crazy. Carl screams to Harriet to turn it off. Harriet says she did, and Carl says to turn it back on. So now we see that an active bathroom sink faucet is the only way to keep the shower head off. Even the dumbest person would make it very difficult to make that happen. Somehow Carl did that.
I just want to know how he did. And oh my God, John, did you notice that sink? There's one faucet for hot water and there's one faucet for cold water. I had a sink like that in one of my apartments. It is the most torturous device to use in a bathroom because you can only get super hot water or icy cold water. It doesn't mix together in that sink.
Wait, so you can't turn the hot and cold water on at the same time to get sort of like a nice lukewarm mixture?
It's two faucets. So when you're washing your hands, you've got to go between two faucets to get hot water and cold water. It's terrible.
I would never want that. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. A wet Carl, still in denial, says it's just the pipes flushing themselves out. Harriet asks if he minds her trying something. Carl says go ahead, and Harriet proceeds to turn off the sink faucet, knowing that will turn the shower back on, and spray Carl because he needs to learn to give up, goddammit. Harriet, I mean, if she can't physically abuse him, then the shower will do it.
Yeah, waterboard him if you can't get him to stop on his own.
Yeah, family-friendly waterboard him with that shower. I love that. Carl asks Harriet what is she doing, and Harriet sarcastically replies that he did a nice job making the shower only work from the sink. Carl turns the water off and says he must have crossed the pipe somewhere. Harriet sarcastically says that's fine, and they'll just have to be fine with never taking a shower alone in that bathroom. Carl insists that this is an easy fix and proceeds to exhaust and overwhelm me with the list of things he has to do. Remember this list, Andrew? Carl has to rip out the shower, tear up the floor, reconnect some pipes, slap on some drywall, lay some tile, grout it, tidy up. Jesus, stop it.
Tons. Carl, just stop. That literally sounds like a month's worth of work just to get done in one night?
Harriet, again, is trying to knock sense into her husband and firmly tells him it is over. Carl tells Harriet that he knows this looks bad, and Harriet quickly interrupts him with, looks bad? You got to turn on the shower for the sink. I love that.
I love Harriet bringing it to reality. Like, it's not a look, Carl. Everything in here is bad.
Carl says he really wanted to do this for his mother, and there's an obvious faulty edit that happens here. I don't know if you noticed this. So the facial expression that Carl gives when he says that line in a close-up does not match the facial expression we see when the camera immediately pans out to his and Harriet's whole body. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that.
those editors not paying close attention. First, it was that Shadow Judy bike scene, and now this fucking shit. Come on now. They should have known that more than 30 years later, we would be unnecessarily analyzing this on a podcast.
They had no idea, but I wanted them to notice it because this has happened multiple times in different episodes where the edit is so rough. You can tell that something else occurred and they took it out.
Harriet tells Carl to look around because him finishing the project successfully is not going to happen. Carl finally concedes and says he might as well face it. Maybe he's not as handy as he thinks he is, and then dramatically drops whatever tool he was holding to the ground. I wonder if it was the same drama that Eddie did. Remember when Eddie just slammed the tools on the ground? In the last episode we recapped, the body damage one. I mean, that was for comic effect.
It was. But now that I think about it, John, it was a wrench. And didn't Carl have a wrench?
Maybe. Was it the same wrench that Eddie dropped?
Possibly.
So that's what they call the slam to the ground wrench.
It's our ground wrench. We just use it to slam on the ground. That's it.
Cue sappy background music as Harriet comforts Carl by saying it's okay and he's so good at many other things. Carl retorts with an insecurity I'm still trying to work through personally, which is, the stereotypical idea that if you're a real man, you're a handy guy. You know your way around fixing a shower or fixing a sink or whatever. So I get it. Carl and I were working through the same thing.
I don't know if I've ever come across that one in my own personal life. For me, it's do my shoes match or something like that. But I can get it because going with that, you hear it a lot. The man is supposed to be like the hardy one and takes big shits and does all these things. And the women don't do that. So I can understand why Carl's a little hurt right now.
Yeah, the women take little puppy shits and then the men take big, giant German Shepherd shits. Yeah, if my wife clogs up the toilet, I'm like, no, woman, that's my job. I can see. Harriet rightfully says that being good with your hands is not what makes a man. It's being good with your heart. And when it comes to that, Carl is the best there ever is. Carl is touched by the compliment, kisses Harriet, and thanks her because he needed to hear that. Carl then walks around a little and asks what he's going to do about this mess. Harriet presents the options of calling Sylvia or board up the room. Carl sarcastically wonders if he'll have to tell Sylvia that he's an idiot who destroyed his own bathroom and made a fool of himself. Harriet assures Carl that he doesn't need to tell her that because when she sees the chaos, she'll know.
Mm-hmm. I could only imagine what Sylvia's response would have been if she walked in that very moment.
Scene 8, cut to Harriet in the living room, reading a magazine on the center couch and once again appearing way too dressed up for what should be a casual, lazy time in our home. Front door opens, and in comes a returning Mama Winslow from travel, greeting Harriet with Carl behind her holding bags. Harriet greets Mother Winslow back with a hug and says she's sorry she didn't have a good time at Frank's. Mama Winslow tells Harriet the older Frank's gets, the cheaper he gets. They had a fight the other night at dinner. Harriet asks for more information, and Mama Winslow simply says that she just wanted some dinner. Frank is so cheap that he said to his mother, fuck you having dinner. That's going to cost me money.
It's terrible, Frank. You can even make her a sandwich.
Mama Winslow is glad to be home, and she's exhausted. Carl tells his mom he knows exactly what she needs, a nice hot shower in her own bathroom. Mama Winslow playfully tells Carl to not tease a tired, hungry old lady and asks if he really put a shower in her bathroom. And I love how Mama Winslow just casually leaps to that question as if it doesn't take a lot of fucking work to put up a damn shower in a bathroom. Mama Winslow, with all the famous connections that she has, she's a spoiled lady.
She is spoiled. She is spoiled. When she went to go stay with who is the president?
George H.W. Bush.
Yes, when she went to go stay with Bush, she got spoiled in the White House with all those bathrooms. And she's like, oh, I don't understand why you don't have a bathroom here that has a shower in it. But okay, Carl.
Carl confirms that he did indeed have a shower put in. Mama Winslow excitingly says she cannot wait to see it and asks Carl to bring her suitcase upstairs with her. Mama Winslow delightfully reveals to Harriet that she took a bunch of Frank's towels. Harriet says that knowing Frank, they probably weren't his to begin with. Mama Winslow says that explains why they said Howard Johnson on the towel, which I thought she was referring to the ice cream chain, but it's the hotel chain. That's confusing that there's a hotel Howard Johnson and an ice cream Howard Johnson? Or are they under the same company?
You've just blown my mind because I only know Howard Johnson, the restaurant. So I didn't know that they had ice cream and that they had hotels.
Yeah. So if we're referencing the Howard Johnson restaurant, they do serve ice cream in that restaurant. So that's the same thing. Whether the hotel is wrapped up in the whole restaurant ice cream thing, I have no fucking idea.
Really? I wonder now. Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Cut to Mama Winslow's bathroom, which is nothing like the mess Carl made it. It's actually polished. Mama Winslow enters with Carl and Harriet behind her, and Mama is clearly very happy with what she sees. She gleefully tells Carl and Harriet that she doesn't know what to say because this is beautiful. Carl has to admit that the shower did turn out pretty nice as he reaches for the faucet. Mama Winslow tells Carl she never realized he was this handy because the work looks professional. Carl thanks Mama for the compliment and acknowledges it is professional work. Mama asks Carl if he didn't do this work himself. Harriet confirms that they hired a contractor. Mama is glad to hear that because only a fool would mess with plumbing. Carl gives sort of a nervous look and agrees with his mama. Mama Winslow goes on about a time when Carl was pig-headed enough to do this kind of work himself. Carl embarrassingly says that was a long time ago. Yeah, sure, Carl. Probably was yesterday.
Yeah, Carl, it was less than 12 hours ago.
Mama Winslow, very emotionally moved by the shower and brings Carl and Harriet in for a hug. Mama says she thinks she'll take a shower now, and I fear very much for what will happen when she does. Were you bracing for this madness as well?
I was bracing for the madness of what's going to happen when she turns on the shower. I was so nervous. But then I'm also captivated in the scene. There is a bench that has gold metal on it and has a furry top that's sitting in the center of the stage. And that bench, I want so bad. It looked so cute.
My God, that's like from Mama Winslow's days where she was just partying up with the Beverly Hills rich old women celebrities that loved anything furry with their furniture.
Yes, this bench sticks out like a sore thumb in there because there's no gold in this bathroom except for that golden bench with this furry, like it looks like it could be like ostrich feathers on the actual cushion.
It sticks out like Carl's two bandaged, very sore thumbs.
Ooh, good callback there. Yes.
Cut to outside Mama Winslow's bathroom door as Carl and Harriet exit and delightfully listen in on the shower music Mama is putting on. Carl is thinking his mother likes her new shower, and Harriet is convinced she's proud of him and offers to make Carl a milkshake to celebrate. Carl thinks he damn well does deserve a milkshake. And I'm curious as to how Harriet makes a milkshake, Andrew, because I feel like she does it very thoroughly as opposed to just throwing milk and ice cream into a blender. Like if we're making a moment out of this, it's like, Harriet might have some very delightful, delicate milkshakes.
I feel like she does. I feel like her milkshakes are like an event for her to offer it so proudly to him. And he's like, oh, yes, I want this. It's an event.
Carl and Harriet enter the kitchen from the living room after walking away from the bathroom door, which indicates that Mama Winslow's bathroom is downstairs. Here we go with the thing that doesn't make sense. Because three of them, they just went upstairs from the living room earlier to see this bathroom. So there's an odd maze in this house where somehow going through an upstairs bathroom can lead you downstairs into the living room. What is this Winslow house?
Twilight Zone at the max. I was looking because when they walked out of that bathroom door, I'm like, how are they in the living room? Like, how did we get to the living room? This doesn't make any sense. And it's supposed to be Mama Winslow's bathroom. So think of the layout of that. If this is her personal bathroom that she uses every day, why is that on the first floor when she goes upstairs to her room in every other episode?
It's good food for thought, and we need answers right now. Maybe Susan, through her brief experience guest starring as Sylvia the Contractor, will tell us that in the interview that we'll record mere hours after we're done here. Carl and Harriet find a bummed out Rachel in the kitchen by baby-chaired Richie. Carl has a baby talk moment with Richie while Harriet mentions to Rachel that she's making one of those nighttime reward milkshakes for Carl and asks if she would like one too. Rachel depressingly says no thanks and asks Richie who she is as another desperate attempt to get this poor baby to say mama. Carl tells Rachel to give it up. Richie will speak when he has something to say. Rachel insists that Richie already spoke and when he speaks again, she will be ready. Rachel looks at her tape recorder bummingly and says she needs new batteries and tells Richie that Mama will be right back. Rachel gets up and stresses Mama to Richie again before exiting up the stairs for batteries. Harriet asks Carl to get her the milkshake glasses in the cabinet in the other room as she prepares this shake with the blender as I thought she would. Jesus, between the formal fashion around the house and having glasses specifically for milkshakes, Harriet, too classy for my own good. She's too classy with the glassies.
She is. Harriet is good housekeeping in real life. I love it.
Carl exits to find these milkshake glasses and asks Harriet off camera where in the cabinet he should look. Harriet rolls her eyes like any wife would when their husband doesn't understand instructions and says, never mind, she'll find it herself. As Harriet exits the kitchen, camera zooms on baby Richie and we know it's coming. With literally no one in the kitchen witnessing, he finally says, Mama. And he's not even moving his mouth. It's clearly a very poor baby voice sound effect from off stage. They should detect that.
I did. I was like, this sounds just like Carl when he did it. And I'm like, did they just reuse the sound? They didn't. But I was like, they reused the sound.
What I've learned in this episode is Carl needs to stop both pressuring his oldest child and stop thinking that he can fix things in the house that he clearly can't fix. And also maybe work some stuff out with his mother where he's not trying so anxiously to get her approval. Be your own person. And if your mother doesn't respect that, then damn her.
Yes. Carl, get therapy. I know that they offer it through the police department. Take your whole family with you. Everybody needs to go. And they need to have a serious conversation about enabling, pushing people, and overdoing it. Those are some conversations that I think everybody in this family could have. I just have to say, I really enjoyed this episode. It gave me Three Stooges slapstick mixed with like a little I Love Lucy and then the Cosby Show with it. And I fell in love with this episode. I really enjoyed it.
Season 1, Episode 9 is our next episode recap. Stakeout, original air date November 24th, 1989. It seems like a lot of guest stars were in this episode. I think we had like 3. Yeah, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told you privately via text, a perfect cold open. For you listening, please subscribe, rate, and review, and listen wherever you get your podcasts. The Delicious Recap family matters. Email us anytime, thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, concerns, and feedback, thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. And we're on a lot of social media things. The Facebook, the Instagram, the Threads, the TikTok, the YouTube, all at Family Matters We Watch Pod. Keep that feedback coming on our episode recaps, and we will always mention it, usually at the beginning of our recaps before we dive into said recap. Andrew, please, if you can, with your creatively buzzing way, sign us off.
I am going to say diving into a milkshake is delicious, just like this episode. It's the deliciousness ringing.